Hey everyone, welcome to the live session. I got my friend Sunny here. We look very similar. Before you say that, let's just get that out of the way. We look very similar. We have very similar thoughts on Bitcoin, and we actually wanted to talk about a specific topic: uh, owning one Bitcoin. So how difficult is it? How it gets more difficult over time with people like Michael Saylor buying thousands of Bitcoin every week. Like last week, he bought 10,000 Bitcoin. The week before, he bought another 10,000 Bitcoin. And now, with how the supply schedule works, so we're going to go into the supply schedule. We're going to talk about how much uh, treasury companies are buying. We're going to talk about what Larry Fink has to say about Bitcoin. If you really think about what's happening here, this is going to be an asset that's completely controlled by the very wealthy people out there. There's going to be a lot of institutional buying over the next few years, and we're seeing the trends where institutions are buying way, way, way more than before. We're going to get into this, and we're going to get into a lot more other topics. Sunny, what do you think about this so far?
I think it's an interesting topic. I think this is an important number, right? Everyone's trying to get to their first Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and like you said, there's all these variables, all these factors that come into play. Whether it's the halving, whether it's this institutional kind of gobbling up of Bitcoin, whether it's pubcos, whether it's nation states. So I think this is an exciting topic. Let's roll
Yeah.
up our sleeves and get into it.
Yeah, something that you mentioned right before we started filming was Larry Fink actually said that if every millionaire wanted to own a Bitcoin, they couldn't because there's only 21 million. And one thing that I've noticed is that most people don't even know this. And they just see it as, okay, I need to buy Bitcoin. Or sorry, they see it as, oh, this is digital, this is a digital scam. There's no real value here. But they don't even know what they're critiquing. They don't even know. Like I saw this, there was this survey done where they said something like 21 or 28% of the people who surveyed, something in some like 20 to 30% of people who surveyed said that they even knew that there were 21 million Bitcoin. Most people have no idea. And this is people who were surveyed, right? And this is people who I guess they volunteered to be surveyed to answer questions. People see that's the crazy thing here is that a very small number of people said that they know that there's 21 million. More people than the number of people who said that they know that there's 21 million. More people than that said that they understand Bitcoin. So people said that they understand Bitcoin. Let's say 60% of people said that they think they understand Bitcoin, but like 20% said that they know that there's only 21 million. To me, that's wild because that's the basis. That's the basis of everything. If you don't know that there's 21 million Bitcoin, then what do you know about Bitcoin? You don't know. You don't know anything.
I would agree. In fact, I even wrote a song called 21 Million Bitcoin. I would sing it, but I don't want to scare off your audience. I think it's pivotal. It's really what makes Bitcoin work, and I think it's pretty hilarious. One thing I get into a lot of debates around is why did Satoshi pick 21 million? Did you ever think about that one?
Why?
Do you think it was arbitrary, or do you think does it even matter? Or is he trying to insinuate that? I don't know. Isn't there like 21 quadrillion dollars or something? Or I don't know. Does it map to anything in the real world, or do you think he just kind of picked it?
I think it's just how the math worked out. Like in the first, so with the supply schedule, you have 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes in the. So I'll share this here. So you have 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes for the first year or first 4 years, and 25 every 10 minutes for the next 4 years, and 12.5. And the number of Bitcoin that this adds up to is just under 21 million, right? So I mean, let's say for example, if he changed it slightly, let's say instead of 21 million, he ended up with 20 million. This would have to change, for example, right? So this might be like 48,
Right, but
or
he could have made it 100. No, I'm just saying is
he
like
could have
he
made it
could have picked
100
any
as well.
number.
That's a good point, but I feel like I think it's arbitrary. I think it's,
Right. Yeah,
I think,
that's what I landed on eventually. Is the
yeah,
fact that it's limited is what really matters. Like
that's the
whether
only
you
thing that
pick
matters.
21 or
Exactly.
22. Yeah.
Like if you think about it, it's this one unit. That's it. Like there's one thing. Even if there was one Bitcoin and it could be split into infinite units, it's the same thing as having 21 million versus 50 million versus 100 billion, right? Because if that one can be split into into, let's say, 500 trillion units or 500 quadrillion units, it's the same thing as having 500 quadrillion units as an individual. So, I mean, I even for this, like the more important thing here is the 21 million isn't relevant. What I think is most important is this number here. This is the number of satoshis. So one Bitcoin can be split into 100 million satoshis. This is the number of satoshis. So there's like 2.1 quadrillion. All that you should focus on, at least in my opinion, is getting as many satoshis as you can, right? If you can get 10, if you can get 100, if you can get 1,000 every week, if you can get 10,000 every week, I think you're better off than somebody who doesn't buy any at all. Because what you're doing is you're securing your fraction of this massive number here, the 2.1 quadrillion.
Yeah, agreed. How do you get there, though? Or are we going to save that one for the next show?
What do you mean? How do you get there?
How do you get there? How do you buy more Bitcoin?
How do you buy more Bitcoin? Okay, so I mean, it's I think it's a personal finance question, right? Cut your spending as much as you can, increase your income as much as you can, and then put the difference into Bitcoin. I mean, you can choose to do whatever you want with that difference. You could put it in real estate, you could put it in stocks. That part's basic, just the personal finance. You can also find ways to just make more value for other people and get paid in Bitcoin. I think that's a great way to do it. There's a lot of Bitcoiners who want to pay for value, who are willing to pay for services. And if you can offer those services for Bitcoin, like let's say content creators, you can offer content creating or let's say editing services for a Bitcoiner, they'd probably pay you in Bitcoin. And that's a way for you to accumulate
You could create content and
or
educate
create
people like
content.
you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, create content. Yeah. So getting to that one Bitcoin over time is just getting more and more difficult. Like that's the more important thing. The 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 way to get there, we'll talk about that. I think we'll talk about that later, but I think the focus here should be getting to that one Bitcoin. Why is it so significant? Why is what number do you consider to be significant when it comes to Bitcoin? Like how much Bitcoin do you think that people should have?
As much as humanly possible. I think one is a good target. I mean, I used to always say that Bitcoin's going to $1 million. Today, I think that's going to be more like the floor in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So it feels like, I was telling you this though. I saw a video just last week that was talking about how zero point 0.1 Bitcoin is definitely not enough. He was doing the math on a $500 trillion market cap, which would mean that Bitcoin takes half of the entire world's value. And in that
Yeah.
case, your zero point 0.1 only works out to about $2 million, which is, I would argue, probably a lot of money for the average person. But to create like generational wealth or whatever it is, I think one is like table stakes as a bare minimum. I think you're looking at probably 10 plus if you want to like leave a lot of wealth for your next generation. Yeah, that's kind of how I think about it. Like one would get you by probably in your lifetime in a kind of average way. A point one rather, one
Yeah.
would probably be fairly abundant in the next 10 years or so, and 10 would
But
be like
if
100%.
see the way that I see it, if we're looking at this in terms of fiat currencies, like let's say we continue to use fiat,
Mm-hmm.
even point one will cover you because you can take loans against that point one. You can borrow against the point one, and then you never really have to sell it. You'll sustain that point one, that the 10 million satoshis that you've accumulated. You can sustain that for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, right. But like zero point 0.1 at today's value is like 10 grand,
Yeah,
right? So like I said,
it's
is
not.
if Bitcoin goes from 2 trillion market cap, which it is today,
Yeah,
to 500 trillion, which I think is pretty optimistic, right?
250k,
That would be like half of
250x.
every house, every apartment, every oil. I mean, it's literally half of the money. And you're talking about, about a $2 million net worth or 2.5 million. So in today's terms, which is what you'd probably want to benchmark against, right? So, like I said, I think one is you're starting to get to that kind of freedom place, and not today, obviously, because it's only
Mm.
worth 80 grand, 85 grand. Maybe in 10 years, if we get the way that Michael Saylor is predicting, it's going to go. What he says eventually, he's predicting on the high side 50 million of Bitcoin, which I think is amazing, and I'm here for it. And if that's the case, then yeah, maybe one is definitely more than enough. But That's
But
hoping that it's going to be, big time moon kind of situation here.
I get what you're saying, but I want to kind of give you some pushback.
Hmm.
Um, I think that I think $50 million is low
For
because
Bitcoin,
I mean I
talk to
think it's
me.
going to take I think Bitcoin's going to take over everything, and it's going to lead to massive abundance. So people aren't going to want to save in houses. People aren't going to want to save in even if we just get rid of savings, even if we get rid of housing being used as savings, that wealth that goes into Bitcoin is going to enrich everybody by a crazy amount. And the people who have Bitcoin, the value that they have, so even point 0.1 Bitcoin, like think about it. In total, in the entire world, 210 million people can have point 0.1 Bitcoin. So
Yes.
so if 210 million people can have point 0.1 Bitcoin, and Sailor bought 10,000 Bitcoin last week, and then he bought 10,000 the week before. So what's the real float here? We don't value it based on the total supply because the total supply won't be available. What would value it based on would be the marginal amount of Bitcoin that's available to be bought. If there's, let's say, at some point, if okay, so if fiat survives and Bitcoin only tops out at 50 million, that probably means that there's a very limited number of Bitcoin available to be traded because people will just hold on to it to store their value. The people who own Bitcoin have way more value than they need to sustain their lifestyles, right? So to me, 50 million is like a base case. It's going to trillions of dollars. I think that the US dollar is going to go to zero, and it can one thing it blew my mind when I first heard about it. The US dollar can lose 99%. Well, not heard about it, but thought about it. The US dollar can lose 99%, then it can lose another 99%, then it can lose another 99%, and it can keep going forever, literally forever. So that means that the Bitcoin can keep gaining 30, 40, 50% per year, literally forever.
Do you think at one point it just becomes like Bitcoin just takes over? And now I go
Yeah,
to the store and I'm like, I'll give you 10 Satoshis for that can of pop instead of
100%.
whatever, like point, or like, here's $1 billion for a can of Coke, right? Like at one point it probably,
Yeah,
yeah, Bitcoin just takes over.
that's exactly what I think.
I mean, I mean, the math kind of makes sense because, again, Bitcoin has no top because fiat has no bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, but just to go back to your original question, though, I think the one Bitcoin number, the conversation around it is really interesting. I think the BlackRock comment we started at the top, which is that, like Larry Fink mentioned, that if every millionaire wanted to have their hand on one Bitcoin, they'd be surprised to find that they wouldn't be able to,
yeah,
which is amazing because that creates FOMO amongst, the wealthiest. And I think for the average person, it's like a great number to kind of, gun towards. And it's not too late. It's definitely, I think, yeah, that our best years are still ahead of us. And yeah, and I think this is an opportunity for the average person to just kind of front run institutions, nation states, and the rest of the world.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's going to be. I think owning one Bitcoin is you're not going to meet many people who own one Bitcoin
Hmm.
in the future. It's already so scary. It's already so difficult just owning
Hmm.
one Bitcoin. Think about it. How many people can own one Bitcoin today? How many people do you think can buy one Bitcoin? Like we have people who are making 50, 60K a year, 70K a year after their expenses. They barely have any savings. Maybe they can buy 100, 200, $300 worth of Bitcoin a month. They're never like most people are never ever, even if they try to, they're never going to get to one Bitcoin.
I agree. I agree. I think it's going to get more and more challenging. And I used to be a financial advisor, like a very, very long time ago. And during those few years, I used to sit down with families every day, right? And I used to have seen like the financial situation of hundreds of families, and you'd be surprised, dude. It's crazy. Like most
Yeah.
people, they're usually using one credit card to pay off another. There's no like kind of sense of like budgeting. There's no goals. It's really just kind of getting by from paycheck to paycheck. And yeah, I think the idea of getting your hand on one Bitcoin now is not only getting very difficult, but I think the discipline is also lacking. So not only do you need to educate people about like the importance of doing it,
Yeah.
but also just like that's why I started with that question of like, how does the average person even get there? And spend less, make more, but how? Like
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like there's more month than money, right? Like you're waiting
Yeah.
for the month to finish so you can get that paycheck. And I sympathize with people out there. And so I don't know, my kind of takeaway is dollar cost average, right? Like whatever you can, just buy a bit of Bitcoin every single month, every single day if you can. And the beauty of that kind of strategy is that it divorces you from the whole like crypto casino and like the ups and the downs, and even Bitcoin can be quite stressful. So if the price of Bitcoin goes up, your net worth went up. If the price of Bitcoin goes down, you're buying more Bitcoin next month. So
Yeah.
I like to just almost systemize it, and yeah, but to have that goal of one Bitcoin, I think for the average person is a noble one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I want to actually go into something else,
Mm-hmm.
the distribution. So
Ooh, I
who
like
owns
this
Bitcoin
one.
right now?
Yeah, this is super
Uh,
cool.
so individuals own 66% of the supply. So it's 13.83 million Bitcoin. And I think one of the things about this is that one of the important things to consider is that most of the people who own Bitcoin today, they don't actually understand it. They have there's a lot of people who have hundreds of Bitcoin, thousands of Bitcoin who are just trading in and out. And I think some of them are, of course, um, there are some whales who are selling right now, and that's partly why the price is down. A lot of people have been talking about that, want to know. There are some whales who are selling, but I think that the reason why they're selling is that either number one, they think that it could potentially fail, or number two, maybe I mean, what would you need to sell $1 billion worth of Bitcoin for? Maybe some of them are just trying to manipulate the market, get more of these individuals to sell, bring the
Mm.
price down so they can accumulate even more. I mean, this could have like this is chess, while most people are playing checkers and they're just stuck in this 2D game while these whales are playing 4D chess. Absolutely wild.
You know what really stands out here? The lost Bitcoin for some reason.
Lost Bitcoin, yeah.
7.6%. I don't know if you've heard the famous Satoshi quote where he said lost coins make everyone else's worth slightly more.
I have, yeah.
But it definitely, I mean, to think that does it say, what does it say? 1.58 or 11.58? 1.58.
1.58
1.58 million Bitcoins out of 21 million are lost.
forever.
That's nuts. That is just
Yeah.
nuts. Yeah.
But see that
Which makes the whole one Bitcoin thing even harder. Like there isn't 21 million. There's only whatever 19 and a half. You take away
yeah.
Satoshi's 1 mil, now you're at 18 and a half.
Even
Um,
this, I don't know how accurate this might be because we don't know if the people who actually have that Bitcoin will move it later on,
hmm.
right? We have no idea
Yeah,
because there are
it's a good
still
point. Yeah, how do you know that for with certainty, right? It's a good point.
yeah, like there's still people who are selling there are people who are selling Bitcoin that they mined 14, 15 years ago. That's
Right.
still happening. It's not like they've stopped, right? And then
That-
this isn't up to date as well. This is actually 5%. So the thumbnail of the video here, we actually just recently reached 5% of the total supply being mined, which is huge. 5%, or sorry, 95% of the total supply being mined and 5% being left, which is huge because when you think about that, 5% left. So the rest of the world, like if you talk to the people around you, how many people actually understand it? Very few.
mhm. Sorry, just to spend a couple more seconds on the lost Bitcoin thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's say you've heard these like crazy wild stories, right? Of where, oh, I had it on a computer and it found its way onto like some garbage pile or whatever, right? Like what are they called? Like a dumping ground or whatever.
Dumpster.
And then because it was so much Bitcoin and it was so early that you hear about people like raising capital to go and buy the garbage yard or whatever so that they can go and
Yeah.
try and find it. Like I wonder if at one point Bitcoin becomes so ridiculously like expensive that it just makes absolute financial sense for people to like go back and figure out how to get it. Like if, even if it's in a garbage pile or if it's in the bottom of the ocean or whatever, you just start seeing people
Yeah.
do crazy things. But
But do you
that
think those devices would actually even work?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, probably not. But I'm just saying is like some of it is just because like okay, at this price, I wouldn't ever like try and buy a garbage dump for like
Yeah.
whatever $500,000 or a million or a couple million. But if you knew that there was $100 million buried there, you could probably convince a bunch of people to give you $1 million and be like, look, I'll split the 100 with you when I find it
Yeah.
type of thing. Yeah, like the economics of it. Anyways, I'm off on a bit of a tangent, but that is mind blowing. I never knew it was 7.6%.
Yeah.
That's
It's
crazy,
crazy.
and only 5% left, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean it's crazy, man. I think we're at a very interesting kind of inflection point, right? Like you have, like you said, the Michael Saylors of the world waking up and essentially aping into Bitcoin. What did you say? 1,000 Bitcoins a day. He's taking off the
1,000
market.
Bitcoin a day.
You've got like, and I'm still kind of at the edge of my seat waiting to see what happens in the US because I mean, Trump was voted in. One of the big things was his promise that he was going to figure out a way for the United States to start stashing Bitcoin, right? Like
Yeah.
to me, once that happens, like you said, I mean, $1 trillion of Bitcoin, maybe that's a bit too bullish for, even for my liking, but I mean, all bets are off just because nation states printing money to infinity and beyond just so they could buy
Yeah.
Bitcoin and racing between each other. It's like, forget about it. Who knows what's going to happen then?
The
And but
the
it's good,
unit
but
of count
but
the
it will
unit
get
of account
harder for all of us, for like the average person, just stack. I think as
yeah.
aggressively.
Exactly. The unit of account that we have today is fake, right? And you can't really I feel like you can't value Bitcoin in this thing that's it's infinite. US dollars are infinite. There's no limit to how many dollars can exist. So I don't even know. Even Sailor, I mean, I think he's being bearish when he says 50 million a coin.
Well, back to the math I was doing. I think 50 million would insinuate that Bitcoin takes over everything. Like it is all of value,
50
right?
million.
Right?
If I
Because
mean
at 50
50
million,
million a coin, if it's at 50 million a coin, you own one Bitcoin, then that's definitely generational wealth. And I mean, at that point, point one is $5 million, and that's definitely generational wealth.
yeah. Well, I was arguing at 2.5. It's like this. I don't think it's 2.2, and I don't think anyone would consider. You need a couple. Like nowadays, even to be a millionaire, I think is not enough to retire. Right? Like the way the
Yeah,
cost of living is going, it's like $1 million today is definitely not what $1 million, let's say 30 years ago, it was. And like I said, the 2.5 to 5, it's not bad, but you get to one, and we hit, Michael Saylor's top end.
yeah,
You're laughing. Obviously, 50 would be more than enough. So I think one is just the perfect number for, I think, in this day and age, for people to just target and try and get
yeah,
towards. Um and like I said, man, like I think there's one thing about like educating people about Bitcoin. I find from my day-to-day conversations is people get stuck with the, well, how? And yeah, okay, spend less, make more, but how? Okay, I only make so much in my job. I've got expenses. So how? Um, and I know that's more like personal finance type of area, but I feel like if you're not solving for that, like people are kind of just stuck. Like they all know, and it just causes more anxiety than anything else because they can't even take a step towards the direction that they want to.
yeah, yeah. It's true because most people, like you said before, most people are just in debt. They're they're trying to spend less than they earn, but I mean, the system is just designed to make sure that they can't. Right, the
Yeah.
cost of everything will keep going up. The, th- there's there's a lot of people who they own a lot of rental properties, for example,
Hmm.
and they increase the price because they can,
Hmm.
and that leads to more inflation as the rental price for one property goes up. Their neighbors start increasing their prices. It's all just, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the entire system is just based on feelings.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I feel like paying this much for this house, so I'll offer this much, and if I can buy it, I'll buy it. And like during COVID, like during the pandemic, for example, we saw people buying houses for 500K above asking, which
Mm.
is absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yeah, the
It's just
housing
that
market
supply
makes no
demand.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all over the place. Yeah, and I think housing will eventually demonetize or Bitcoin will demonetize housing as well. I think a ton of people flock to housing as a way of preserving their wealth and
yeah.
trying to stay ahead of inflation. But
That
once
that's partly what
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin will fix against, though, right? That Bitcoin will fix that because I feel like when people know what Bitcoin is, I think a lot of people are going to want to sell their housing or they're going to want to borrow against their housing. And at some
mm,
point, they're going to realize, okay, it doesn't even make any sense for me to hold this rental property. It's just another job.
yeah, yeah.
And that's that.
You,
I
you, you've probably heard of Thea, the guys, what they're doing with their Horizon. I interviewed Smeet a couple months ago, and he told me about that. I was just like, wow, that's super, super exciting with what they're
yeah,
doing, and just enabling people to kind of unlock home equity to buy Bitcoin. Like again,
huge.
as a financial advisor, that was a strategy that a lot of people implement. It's like, oh, take equity out, buy stocks, buy mutual funds, whatever.
Yeah,
But that kind of doesn't add up because you're like, because the entire stock market is still fiat based, right? And so the real play there is to put some of that home equity into Bitcoin.
yeah,
And if you're lucky and if things go the way they've been going in 5 years, pay off not just your house but your neighbor's house if you do it right.
yeah. Agreed. Agreed. That's exactly it. That's see, that's the thing that Bitcoin gets you out of. Like even that's why I think even point one Bitcoin is going to save people. It's going to change people's lives,
Mm.
right? Because with point one Bitcoin, you can I mean, you can borrow against it if you want to pay off your mortgage, right? And now you no longer owe money on your house. And if interest rates in the legacy financial system go up, I think that rates on mortgages can go up, but rates on Bitcoin will go down because Bitcoin is it's probably the most secure collateral for lenders. And I mean, there's a lot of things that we can talk about on that. I don't really want to go into that rabbit hole. Maybe we do that another one. Why Bitcoin is such a great asset for being used as collateral.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Yeah, we could tackle
but
on
yeah,
another one. I got a lot of
so
opinions on that topic.
yeah, exactly. That again, I just want to end off on that note. Owning one Bitcoin just becomes more difficult every day. It's going to keep getting more difficult because as the price goes up, and as we discussed here, number one, the supply goes down. Number two, or supply is almost completely out. Number two, Larry Fink saying that even all the millionaires in the world can't own one Bitcoin as they chase that one Bitcoin status. Price goes up. Then we have Saylor buying 10,000 Bitcoin a week. He's bought something like 670,000 Bitcoin in total. BlackRock, they have their clients buying Bitcoin all the time. They're pushing Bitcoin to their clients. They're buying as much as they can. All of this, I think this is all compounding and it's turning this into an insane cycle. Sunny, I want to ask you one question here.
Mhm.
What do you think? What do you think is happening right now? Do you think we're in a bear market? Do you think we're about to recharge and go into the biggest bull market of our lifetimes? What do you think?
The latter, that's what it
Wow.
feels like to me. But I'm not too surprised by this downward, kind of pressure that we've been seeing, just because everybody and their dog was predicting Bitcoin to moon in the last 4 months. And I know a
Yeah,
lot of people that
it's
took
true.
positions accordingly, and they were just convinced. And I find whenever everybody is convinced of the same thing, it feels like it's almost priced in. So
Yes,
a part of me was just like bracing for impact a little bit. And look, if Bitcoin goes down to like 30K, I think there's a lot of people that there's probably a lot of people who would lose their shirts, but I think a lot of people would be happy because you could just
one hundred
buy
percent.
more Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's not changing. Bitcoin's the same thing. And
Yeah,
I think it would just present the generational kind of opportunity that we've always wanted. So yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm just happy to be alive during this time. And like we said, just trying to earn as much money as humanly possible so that we can just put away as much Bitcoin, as much Satoshi as possible. And so, yeah, but I do think I kind of
that's
like this, what I'm hearing about the 4 year cycle's over and we're about to hit something big. I personally think that once the US starts signaling, or once they get whatever they're trying to work on through the finish line. I don't think anybody can predict what's going to happen after that. I think it's going to be like insane. Just like I said, like the money printer go burr straight into Bitcoin
Yeah.
by the people who hold the reserve currency. Forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. This is just over time. I think it gets easier and easier for governments to just print more money, and that just pushes the price up. Number one. Number two, more people are figuring out what Bitcoin is. They're figuring out that they're getting scammed by the fiat currency financial system. And then number three, I mean, everybody's looking for a solution. Social media is making it more and more obvious that we have a problem here. Have you seen all
Mhm.
those videos where people are crying? They're telling you that they're having an issue where they can't pay their bills and things are just getting harder and harder. I think it's just becoming more and more widely known that there's a problem, and I think Bitcoin, out of every other asset, is the best solution.
Yeah, the biggest reason to buy Bitcoin is there you go for the next
Good.
generation.
Yeah.
Hey Rajat, man, I wanted to just tell you before we end this one that you're doing great work, and you know I hung out with you at the Vegas event and saw firsthand the followership you've built, and it looks like you're really just affecting a lot of people in a very positive way, including myself. And yeah, thank you for doing this weekly show with me. Hopefully, we can keep this going, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We're gonna end it off there. Put some links in the chat there. If you want to join my community, you can. If you want to book a one-on-one session with me, if you can, go through those links, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care. Bye bye.